Hello, everybody. James here, WSI, my guest this week. What else can you say about him apart from he's a former WWE champion, a former ECW champion, and most importantly, a former ECW television champion, the greatest TV champion there ever was, WWE Hall of Famer, and the whole effing show. It's Rob Van.
Wait, dude. Hold on a second. Let's do it together. You ready? Rob Van Dam. Damn, you might have a little bit of a delay here. I don't know.
I know, that's why I didn't say anything, because it would have been Rob, Van, Dam.
Sounds like you know what you're doing.
I know, dude, half-second delay. What can I say?
Cool. Whoa, are you quick enough to catch my my cuss words in that little delay?
Dude, it's whatever you want. It's whatever you want, apart from that dreaded C word. You know what I'm saying? That them YouTube algorithms really hate. For whatever reason.
Isn't the C word just a regular, like, not swear word in England?
Yes. It's a greeting here, but
yeah, that's what I thought.
Dude, I've got to ask you the first thing, right? After 30 plus years in the business, taking bumps, but being an early advocate in the business of, proper stretching, how's your body held up over the years? Because, I mean, how much did you stretch before matches on average? 20, 30 minutes more?
More, yeah. So an hour if I have it. I can do it in 30, but usually I make time because that's one of the priorities on match day. So I will stretch for an hour, and I feel great after I stretch. I do that to feel like I'm at my best, So I'm pretty sure it's because I've always stretched that I'm able to still get in the ring and still do the Northern Lights suplex and corkscrew leg drop and rolling thunder and whatever. It's I always knew that it was a good idea, and so did all the other wrestlers. Everybody would always step over me when I'm stretching and say, "Man, I got to start stretching with you, Rob." But there's nobody else in all those years that had an hour stretch routine like me. It's my stretch isn't a warm-up, it's an actual workout, and I'm dripping sweat and I'm testing my body throughout it. But there's an exception. It wasn't as extensive as my stretch routine, but two people come to mind that did stretch every day. I mean, some of the guys just do this, you know what I mean? And they go out there. I guess those guys are tough because, I mean, I'm sure I'd be hurt if I did that. But anyway, CM Punk would stretch before his matches, and so would Devon Dudley. And they would have their own routine that was, whatever they got out of it, they did. And that was routine for them. So got to give them credit for that. Everyone else would say, I remember Kevin Thorne one time, so I'm going to start stretching with you. And I think he lasted I don't know if it was 1 or 2 days, and then and then he was just done. But it's a very inner experience.
Well, it's a huge commitment as well. As you say, it's like a pre-workout before another public workout. With the stretching, how much do you? I think really what I'm asking is what sort of aches and pains are you living with daily now, and how much do you credit your sort of longevity to the stretching in that sense?
I feel, good overall. There's certain things that I just live with, but that always has been the job and the situation. For instance, my left wrist, like, I can't bend it. Like, this is much as I can bend it, right? That's not, I can bend it down, I guess, a little bit. Anyway, it was broke here, and I didn't get it fixed. I actually had a cast on it, and this was I broke it a couple of times now that I think about it. And anyway, that's always been that deal. I broke it in '93 in a match with Dory Funk Jr. And so if you look at my whole career, if someone was to really study, you would notice I don't bend my wrist. When I do the back handspring, I always have to be on my knuckles. If I do push-ups, I got to be on my knuckles. And that's not something I can attribute to age, because it's just always been that, my shoulder messes with me, which I never had that happen until probably 2019 or 2020 during Impact. Somehow I tore the rotator cuff, which is something that a lot of athletes have to deal with. I never did before. And so that's something that limits a lot of what I can do in the gym, but not in the ring though. When I'm in the ring, my shoulder's fine. And um, overall, I feel good. You know, it's weird because I had one spot on my back that always bothered me for I I guess let me probably from like 2005. I had a match. You may have seen it with Eddie Guerrero with a ladder, right? He did a senton over the ladder, and when he landed on me, it moved my bottom rib, and then that was always a source of pain for me. And sometimes where my rib would meets my spine, it would just lock up and make it so that I couldn't move, and it would last sometimes for weeks. I did most of my first TNA Impact run with that back so stiff, like I was like I couldn't even reach my shoes to untie him in the daytime, and I'd be like, how am I going to get in the ring tonight? But after stretching and maybe some pain pills and a little smoky or whatever whatever I could do to get me there, I made it through. But I thought that was just always going to be there. Doctor wanted to do surgery at Cedar Sinai in 2014-ish, maybe, or whatever. But miraculously, boom, it doesn't bother me anymore. And it's been like like a big relief, like a gift from the heavens, you know. And I don't feel it anymore. Like it's almost like something that I'm doing, you know, either took care of it or I don't know. I don't know actually what to attribute to. You know, it'd be nice to say, well, I think it was the CBD that, you know, but really, all I know is I can't remember the last time that spot was locked up on me, and I thought that was probably just always going to be there. So you never know. Sometimes things like that happen. I anything else that I would name would be something that might hurt sometimes and sometimes not. I don't have anything that's like really like keeping me down, you know, with
chronic
pain.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a
come and goes. I have some come and goes that are pretty chronic.
Yeah.
You know, that you know, sometimes they hurt, sometimes they don't. But yeah, and I do like the word chronic.
Yes, the tag team chronic.
And they were named as such because that's a type of cannabis strain.
Of course. You know, there's one injury that I don't know if it was off a DVD, the One of a Kind DVD, or I heard it somewhere, is that the worst injury, and it's one of the ones that I saw the footage of. Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, so the way I remember it, myself and Sabu were both on opposite top ropes, and we had someone on a table. I can't remember if it was Bam Bam or Terry Funk. I think it was Bam Bam Bigelow, I believe. And we both jumped off to do a double leg drop. And the table, instead of just breaking in like you would expect it to and want it to, this one did that, but also there was a jagged, it also broke here. It just, and so the part that was supported by the leg fell to the outside, and so when it so there was an effect where it went like this, and so the piece of wood, as I was going down, sliced right across my eyelid, and my and that was hanging down there, and I had to get it sewn back on later that night with I think 7 stitches, if I remember right. Doesn't sound like that many, but I think it was, and I'm not even sure which eye it was. I think it was this one. It was so long ago, but pretty scary moment thinking of how close I was to losing my eyesight, because that would suck really bad and almost got my eye cut. And as I remember it, we took white athletic tape and taped around my head, and I went back out and had a handicap match against the Dudley Boys. EC Dub.
Dude, the bit that lives rent free in my head is when you said you thought it was just a bit of skin, you were going to yank it off, and it's like, Just the thought of it,
Yeah.
man. I tell you, but I
Oh
tell you,
yeah, well that's that now that one is true. It's funny when you hear people tell stories because I've heard Tommy a few times tell people that when my eye was closed, you could still see my eyeball, like I was still looking at you.
oh.
That one's a little hard to believe, but that's the way he remembers it.
Oh, dude. Anyway, as I say, that one's lived rent free in my head for 20 years or whenever it was when I heard that story. We're going to move on to actually some modern stuff. And you made a few appearances with AEW recently, with the last match being in October, teaming with Hook in a winning effort against the Dark Order. So as we record this today, Hook is actually going to be taking on Samoa Joe for the AEW World title in a few hours on Dynamite, but we can't really refer to it because it's not happened yet as we record this. With the 2 times you tagged with Hook, how much sort of promise is he showing at his level, and how far do you think he's going to go in the business?
Yeah, I think that he will go as far as he wants to. You know, if he sticks it out and wrestles another 20 years, you know, then he'll, like me, look around and notice that he outlasted everybody, and he could do that. He's um, not only does he have that charm, and everyone calls it the it factor, but that was very noticeable just being around him, seeing the way that people take to him. And as a firsthand experience, I know that he's calm and comfortable, and that goes a long way, especially with me, because that's kind of the way that I like to approach life, as opposed to people that are like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Where's my opponent? Oh my God, I only got 5 hours and I haven't even met my opponent yet. Like that's the opposite. Like you're looking for me until the bell rings. And I just think that he has that vibe where he's comfortable and likable, and he's from what I saw, he's a good wrestler, and obviously the fans like his wrestling.
Do you see yourself doing more with AEW in the future?
I do. I don't know for sure, because these have all been one-offs. The match with Jack Perry was like almost a year in the making. They were talking about it. It was amazing that it ended up happening on those particular dates, but not so amazing that I would have a what was it, Tuesday, and I can't remember. It's a middle of the week kind of thing, so it stayed open, but I can't remember right now. But it was like way back, like in January, probably. They were like, we're just thinking of maybe like September. It looks like it might fall on like September 2nd and 9th, so keep that in mind. Like, oh, sure, I'm going to think about that for the next 9 months. But it was exactly right then. So I was talking to Matt and Jeff Hardy, and they were asking, what do you got next? With Tony and with AEW, and I said, this one took so long that I can't imagine if it's going to take that long and we're not talking about anything. I probably won't see you guys for a while. And then Matt was like, oh, it's not normally like that. That's kind of rare. Like a lot of things are last minute here. You never know. And I was like, well, I never know now. So a couple weeks later, it was like, boom, we're in Grand Rapids, my home area, right by Battle Creek, Michigan, and it was like, next Saturday, are you able to do it? Sure. And then again, boom, we're in Philadelphia, are you able to do that one on this date? Sure. So it's just been one-offs. Obviously we have a good relationship, and I appreciate the chance to go out there and do my thing and show people that I had no idea there was so many doubters and how negative people are with age overall, until I did that first AEW appearance, and man, it's kind of depressing to know people when they hit like 30, they think they think of themselves as being old, but I guess it's the kind of life you have. Maybe if I had kids and grandkids and shit like that, maybe I wouldn't feel like a kid myself. I don't know, but I don't identify with old yet. And when I look at my friends like Booker T and Sabu and bunch of those guys that are in that next age bracket, 6 or 7 years ahead of me, I don't think of them as old men. They might think of themselves that way. I don't know, but anyway,
Hey, dude, 50 is the new 30 at this point. I mean, it's like Edge and Christian, and there's so many people sort of in the mid 40s to 50 range that's still doing it at the top of the, at the top of the tree. So 50, what are you, 53 now? That's nothing.
I just turned 53. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
nothing,
and yeah. But that is, yeah. I just read that like yesterday or the day before about 50 is the new 30. It makes sense to me living it, but I'm realizing that not a lot of people, or that other people don't think that way. And I think really, and it's not that I take it personally, I don't, what the fuck do I care? But it's more like, man, they're limiting themselves though so much. In my mind, in my opinion, also.
I presume you are, or at least were, under a WWE Legends deal after you were inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2021. I was wondering how that sort of worked with you appearing for AEW, or if it precluded you from it, or basically you can take any booking you want.
Well, so how that worked out is that the Legends deal only has to do with merchandise. At least mine does. I don't know if they're all the exact same, because I know other wrestlers do appearances and, they don't call me too often, but and I had that confirmed. Merchandise only. You're right, Rob. You can wrestle for anyone, including AEW. So boom, I did it. And then not even the match. It was just the setup for it, get hit in the ring, and then got a little bit of well, they're gonna hold off now on on that appearance that they had you booked on, like, why? You're the one that told me I could do it. but whatever.
Sorry, I also asked a lot of fans about, we got about 200 questions in for you. As I say, if we had like 10 hours, if you gave me yes/no answers to every question, we might get through all of them.
I'm not good at that, but I hear you.
No,
I usually my answers usually make the interviews like 3 times as long as the host thought they were.
Oh, dude,
planning.
Don't worry. I want the long answers, man. Don't worry about it. The first one, by the way, Skeletor writes in, question for RVD. When are we going to see you in the WWE again? And it would be great if you were a surprise Royal Rumble entrant.
Have they not had the Royal Rumble yet?
I think it's in a week or two as we record this.
I was like, it's January, right? It would be cool. And I don't have plans to share with you, although I have been booked last minute many times. And so then I guess that's a possibility. But if they did that, pretty sure they'd want to keep it a surprise. So I wouldn't be here telling you about it anyway. But I will be in Philadelphia during WrestleMania week. It's also WrestleCon, which every wrestler is there that's not at WrestleMania, and along with other activities that week. I'll actually be teaming with Matt Riddle in a tag match that week on for Big Time Wrestling. Bobby Fulton's group, who Bobby Fulton from the Fantastics, dude that's like he's in that. He might be an old man.
Now we're going to get on to, I know one of your favourite topics is the weed, the marijuana, the devil's lettuce and all that kind of thing. And I was thinking a couple of weeks ago there was a news story out, and I knew I was going to have you on a couple of weeks in advance, and I'll ask you about that in a second, in fact. Now, I think it was like December 17th or something, lady wrestler in the WWE called Liv Morgan. She was arrested initially for felony possession, and then misdemeanor.
You're going to say
possession.
Fentanyl. I'm like, dude, don't be spreading those rumors.
Yeah, dude. No, yeah, I'll edit that. No, forget it. Of marijuana in Florida, December 2023. It was reported that WWE harbored no ill will, and the possession charge would not affect her standing in the company. And I was thinking, boy, has the world changed from 2023 to 2006, when it was the exact same thing with you. And I mean, when did the world start changing as far, or at least the United States' perception of marijuana started changing, in your opinion?
Dude, always. It always has been changed, and I've always been in tune with the movement. I wouldn't have invested my whole image into getting behind it if I didn't know that eventually common sense was going to win. So I had a great mentor in Jack Herer. He's so legendary that there's a weed strand, very popular one, named after him. And he was the man that was educating everybody on hemp, on the over 5,000 uses that hemp could be used for, and in many of them in a superior manner to what we have now. Like wood, and you know, just, there's so many things that Henry Ford made a car out of hemp. It ran on hemp seed oil, so we could be self-sufficient, you know. But that kind of stuff, Jack Herer was teaching me, and also the reasons why cannabis is prohibited. And so, you know, I got into, I love history now, maybe not so much as a kid, although I did love Greek mythology. Now it's, for the last, I don't know, several years, it's always mafia history, but that's my go-to. But it all, the thing about nonfiction, it all intercedes. It all. In fact, the guy who was the head of what would become the DEA, Harry Anslinger, he's the one that had a hard-on against cannabis, and he personally was campaigning with that ridiculous movie Reefer Madness. Yeah. He would go to schools, invite parents to look at this, and anyway, when I learned the reasons behind it, it's basically because cannabis could replace like 80% of every other big conglomerate business. It's that resourceful, and so there's profits that would be lost from big families, you know, big banks and Rockefellers and Morgans and DuPont, everybody, and they're all part of it. In fact, Harry Anslinger also was someone that was an anti-mob officer. So when I said everything is intertwined, he goes on in history actually to fight the mafia, which is interesting. But you know, they said that it makes you crazy, it makes you violent. In 1970, Richard Nixon made the Controlled Substance Act for this war against drugs, and they temporarily put cannabis in a Schedule I, which means the worst, the most dangerous drug there is. While they sent out for this report, and when the report came back, it was supposed to back up their agenda, but it did not. It said, no, it's safe. No one dies from it. There's no proof that it's hitting kids in an alarming way, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so Nixon threw the report away, and now today it's still a Schedule I. It's so the government here in the United States tells me that marijuana, heroin, and acid are all a Schedule I, meaning the worst drug there is. So Schedule II is safer for you and for the environment, and that's where you'll find cocaine, meth. In fact, I've tried cocaine. It's not my kind of drug. I probably wouldn't try it if the government didn't tell me that it's safer for me. I know marijuana is safe.
No one's ever overdosed?
No, and why does that not get through to people? You know what I mean? Like, instead of just realizing if no one has died from smoking it and people have died from chewing bubble gum, you know, it's like, why doesn't that get through to people to say, wait a minute, something doesn't add up here? But a lot of people just think of it as a dirty habit or something they're not interested in. And that's...
I did go to New York last month, and it stinks there. It's just every single block, you can smell it.
And I love that. I feel like for me, that is years of hard work, decades of hard work paying off, you know, seeing the world reach that level, because we only have like maybe 10 states. It was 12 a few months ago. I think a couple went through with no medicinal programs. I'm sorry, no marijuana programs, whether it's legal or recreational. Like we have out of all of our states, I was told that when 2/3 of the majority were a certain way. It mandated a federal change, but it's split up between recreational and medicinal and counties. Sometimes it's even jurisdictional differences. But there's very few places where it's completely illegal, like the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama might be one that just changed, or else they're adopting a program. But even so, people still overall, I think, feel like it's something that doesn't concern them, so they don't mind that people are still put in jail and their dogs are shot and houses sold because of this plant. Like, if it doesn't seem to bother them directly, then that's just the way it is. It's not that big of an issue for them. And I think overall people look at it still as maybe kind of like a dirty habit. But what I learned years ago from Jack Herer was it can actually improve your life expectancy. And that's what people eventually are going to get to. You can use it in a productive and healthy manner, combine it with a healthy lifestyle, and it's not no longer a dirty little habit. It's something you're doing to increase your health. And by the way, I wanted to do a documentary for so long on the honest results of what long-term smoking does to somebody, an athlete, maybe several athletes. This has gone through rotations on my plate. Sometimes it's on my front burner. Sometimes I forget about it and it comes back around. But I had my lungs x-rayed. Just from my knowledge, I had two different doctors look at it, two different ones read, and they both said that my lungs are clear. There's no sign of smoking. There's no discoloration or inflammation or irregularities. They could tell that I'm not a cigarette smoker. Boom. I think that would surprise a lot of people, especially since I've been doing my YouTube show. I read the feedback, and some of these people actually think they're like, well, obviously you got some damage, Rob. You've been smoking a long time. Like, they really think like they're in better shape than me. Like, I didn't know, but it makes sense. People's perception will be like that because of how we're taught, and and common sense is something, although it's rare, but it's easy to just blow something off and say, well, yeah, putting smoke in your lungs just couldn't be a good idea, no matter what. But that's not necessarily true, even if the facts don't back it up. And like you said, no one's died from it. No one's even reported, like a case of cancer or anything. So I don't know. Is that what changed my voice? I don't know. But when I hear myself talk from like BCW days, you're gonna get a Van Terminator, Scotty Riggs. Is it Scotty Anton? I can't believe that was my voice, but that's just, it's also a wrestler voice. Al Snow seems to have changed recently, and I know he don't smoke weed.
No.
He bogarts it.
Yeah, maybe it's like the Don Fry thing. If you ever saw Don Fry back in the day, and he had the same thing, it's like, I'm going to, whoever he was fighting. And then nowadays, like, well, how you doing there, pal? He's like the deepest voice. I've got a sort of quick fire from fans, a few weed questions for you, and then I'm going to follow up with a couple of my own as well. Ben C. asks, what is your favorite strain for pain relief?
Okay, well, honestly, if that's all you want to know, just a strong indica, maybe probably OG Kush, something like that. But if you really want to know what I would recommend for pain, it wouldn't even be weed, it would be kratom. And if you haven't heard of kratom, it's a Kratom. You find kratom, well, you can buy it online, but also it's available like at head shops where you find CBD or where you find pipes. Kratom is from the coffee plant. It's a dried up leaf. They crumble up into this powder. It tastes horrible, but when you ingest the powder, which you can do in a capsule, although the capsules don't work as good as the straight up powder, you can buy it even like in little drink shots, but it's really expensive, like $20 for a 5-hour energy size. And it's hard to find. And it's illegal in some cities.
So it's got to be good.
Yeah, exactly, because it works so good. So it latches onto our opiate sensors in our brain, and it's the best sleep aid. It's also the best pain management that I can recommend other than pharmaceuticals. Same with anxieties. A lot of people, and some people get high off of it too. I don't. Everyone has different sensitivities or whatever, and they sell it. It red leaves, which are supposed to bring you down like sleep. Green leaves go white in between. I think it's all the same from my experience. And I've had two manufacturers tell me that it's all the same. But either way, the powder is nasty to take. But when I take it, I got to tell you, it takes a while to find the right dosage and stuff, but it's very comparable to taking a prescription pill like a Vicodin. In fact, a lot of my friends have been able to get off of prescription pills and just switch to kratom. So that's what I would recommend, even over a strong indica.
I'm going
to sleep anxiety, pain. Those are the top three benefits that it's just wonderful in.
I've got none of them. I still want to try it. Right, I am very sorry. I'm going to have to trouble you because we've got quite a few of these very short answers to these. Team Fingers says, is RVD an indica, sativa, or hybrid guy?
Hybrid, sativa dominant hybrid.
Next one, CJ Shook asks, question for Rob, would be about being on the cover of High Times and how weed has helped his career. I mean, it was part of your personality for so many years on screen.
Right. Yeah. So that's good to ask how it's helped my career, because it's so easy for basic thinkers to think of without the weed what you could have done. But really, I wouldn't have made it as far as I did. It helped me feel comfortable getting into a business where I had been nowhere, except my grandma's house. I wasn't an experienced kid that traveled the world. I went right from high school to being in a dressing room full of these big Vikings that had war stories about fighting mobsters in the bars in Russia and all this. And I was very complex, insecure, and very quiet and shy, to a point where Dr. Steve Williams thought that I was actually slow. He's like, you're kind of slow, aren't you, Rob? And I was like, no, that's how I remember feeling like back in the day with him and Gary Albright and all these guys with these stories. And it's like, I rode a roller coaster with my hands up. That's anyway, cannabis helped. It inspires adequacy. That's the best way to put it. Physically, I've used it to be in my best shape. It increases my spiritual vibe so that I'm at my best. So whether it's nausea or pain or discomfort, it's not insomnia or just jet lag or whatever, it kind of resets, reboots, makes me feel like I'm at my best. And so it's something that I've really enjoyed having as part of my process.
Rob asks, do you like to dab concentrates?
It's something that that I don't not like it, but I'm not conditioned for it right now. So it kicks my ass. I'll cough, for an hour after doing a dab. Whereas when I met Katie, I was just doing dabs one after another. That was just, so it really depends on what you switch to. Right now, for the last long time, years, I usually use RVD rolling papers, and I just smoke joints. So because of that, even a bong hit right now will have me coughing my lungs up.
Chuck Town Boy says, can you rank these in order from most favorite to least favorite? Blunts, joints, bongs, edibles.
What was the order?
Sorry, you may do the order of them from most like to least like. So blunts, joints, bongs, edibles.
So from order of like to not like,
yep.
Joints, blunts, bongs, edibles. Boom, right there. We did it, yeah.
There you go. Just very briefly before we move off it, I referenced 2006 with the, you and Sabu. Everyone knows the story, essentially. A couple of questions.
No, they know their own version of it. It's actually so different than actually, just like everything. Just like you were talking about maybe on the cover of the High Times magazine. Mm-hmm. That's just myth. It never happened.
Oh, really? No way. Do you know what?
Take a picture. There's a cover shot, and it's in it's in the middle of the magazine in front of our article, but Ozzy Osbourne is actually on the cover of that. He bumped me off, but in everyone's memory, you know,
I was going to say, you can't be that hard done by.
Just like during the big arrest, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows I got arrested, right? I didn't even get arrested.
Do we? Do you know what? If there's a part 2, we're going to save that for a part 2. I'm already teasing a part 2 in theory. But we'll
told you I
that
talked too long, bro.
Oh, dude, don't worry. But honestly, I showed you this beforehand. 8 pages worth of the stuff. If you gave me yes/no answers, we won't get through it. But I want to talk. I want to talk to you about this on this very YouTube channel back in 2021. Your boy Sabu announced his retirement, and he didn't intend to sort of announce his retirement. It sort of just went, "Oh, I'm not going to do it anymore." And, you know, I think essentially his body couldn't take it anymore. And this was a few months after, I think, Melissa Coates' Super Genie passed away as well. A terrible, terrible situation. The only caveat he gave was that if he had several months to train and a big payday and the right opponent to get in shape for, like a Brock Lesnar, he'd do it. And now fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, our friends at Briscoe and Bradshaw's podcast, Sabu was the guest. And Sabu has said that he wants to do it one more time. Have you talked to Sabu about this, and where do you think he is physically? And go on, tell me everything that you think.
So he's feeling better, man. A couple of years ago, I could not get him to take a booking to go to Noah when I was working with them in Japan. They wanted me to bring him over. You know, you can lay all the way down on the airplane like a bed, and then all you gotta do is stand on the apron and be my partner. You know, could not. He wasn't interested. Now he's feeling better. He's working out. Time off, I'm sure, is a huge factor, and time in general. Probably same thing with my back too. But some of his injuries are feeling better. He's able to exercise more than he was able to, and so yeah, he says he wants to have one more match. And in his mind, I think he's got a time frame. I don't know why. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about that, but it seems like he's hoping for summer-ish, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he said July or August, but it seems like from talking to him that that's where his mindset is for whatever reason. And I asked him if he had an opponent in mind. This was before I saw what he did on Bradshaw and Briscoe's podcast, because I did catch that. And when I asked him about an opponent, he said he didn't have anyone specific in mind, because I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know if you were telling me you were considering a certain booking and maybe that'd be your last. And he's just saying no, but he wants to. And we're documenting it. Mm-hmm. They might be a little early to talk about this, but screw it. Joe Clark is a business partner of mine. He and I did my documentary Headstrong. And he and I did the whole thing. He's the filmmaker, but we literally sat and frame by frame, everything from adding the music to editing, everything. And we made that movie. And there's a few projects we're talking about doing. And this one just seems to be lining up because he wanted to do something on Sabu anyway as a passion project. And when he and Sabu met just recently to talk about said documentary, that's when we found out about Sabu's desire / agenda and his last match and where his mind is on that. So, you know, usually things line up pretty good in the universe. So I think we're going to be catching him feeling good again and stuff. And by the way, I know this isn't a yes or no, but damn, he came across really likable, like on his recent interviews that I've seen him do, you know, which in the past, you know, he's had a habit of opening his mouth and burying himself, you know, and getting heat and stuff. And I'm reading the comments, and he was talking about his stance on women abuse or whatever, and everyone was just like, "Man, Sabu is so respectable, man. He seems like such a likable guy." And it warmed my heart to see the fans talk good about him, as opposed to some of the stuff years ago that might have contradicted those thoughts.
Now, I think it's Scotty Gamez has asked, would you like to be part of Sabu's last match? He doesn't say opponent or tag team partner, but I suspect you want to be involved if possible.
Sure. I would love to. You know, it's all business, you know, but there's also a certain value and favors and stuff like that. And if I was gonna want to help anybody out, it would be Sabu, and I do always want to help him out. He's my brother.
I've interviewed him twice as well, man, and
What's that?
I've interviewed Sabu twice on my channel, and he's tough to get answers out of because I know he's just reticent for this kind of thing and dead shy. But I mean, he was great. He really was great, and I thought he was I really enjoyed speaking. Hopefully, a part 3 anyway. One last thing on Sabu. Splatterfodder Inc. asks, will Sabu ever get into the WWE Hall of Fame?
I can only guess, just like everybody else. I heard rumors, I don't even know if it's true or not, that they might be opening up an extreme wing of it. So I would say definitely. I don't know when. I don't know if it'll be next year or...
I was going to say, it's Philly, isn't it, this year?
15 years away.
Philadelphia, perfect.
Right. And I don't even know if they have everybody, if they're already announced what they have. I'm not really in the loop right now of that information, but I can definitely see it. And I expect it to happen also, for sure. He's helped change the business so much, and being the pioneer that he was, it's not always a good thing, Some people change the business in a bad way, but I think so many people respect him, grew up watching him, et cetera, et cetera. He's got a place in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm going to do the greatest hits of the questions I've got here, and a lot of these are fan questions, some of these from me, and this one is a fan question. Question for Rob from DJ Spacehopper says, would you talk about your friendship with the Ultimate Warrior, how they met, and what your favourite memories of Ultimate Warrior are?
And you want this to be quick?
No. Okay. Sorry, that was just for the weed ones. I mean, because there was loads.
Okay.
No, yeah, as long as you need.
This was like a lifetime kind of a full circle thing. I grew up loving the Dingo Warrior. When I first saw him at a live show before he was on TV, I was telling all my friends at school about him. They weren't at the live shows, and they didn't know who he was because he wasn't on TV yet. But I was so taken by his intensity and his look. There wasn't any really big jacked up guys like that back then. I guess Butch Reed, superstar Billy Graham, they still didn't look exactly like him. He was like Rick Rude with ballooned up muscles, whatever it was, his energy was so captivating. And I told you I was into Greek mythology too, like in high school, and he would do these promos when I thought maybe he was a reincarnated Achilles. I really did. I was like, he's got his spirit, and in fact, when I wrestled before I was actually trained by the Sheik, I don't know if you know this or not. I've recently came across a poster and I put it on my Instagram. But for a couple of years before I was actually professionally trained, when I was kickboxing, me and my friends would wrestle. We would set the chairs up, set the ring up. We'd wrestle first match, a choreographed match, maybe have a fight with someone, maybe a planned fight, and then stand around if anybody from the crowd wanted an extra fight, because it was a drunk crowd, because the kickboxing shows were at parties and bars. And anyway, during that time, there was a time when I called myself the Battle Creek Barbarian, and I took Sharpie and painted my face, put some shoelaces. I'm like, whoa, what? Okay, yeah, we can talk about that. No, but anyway, I Battle Creek Barbarian, and so I had just seen him as a fan and been close to him by getting a picture through his window when he was getting in his car that I still have. But it was years later when a gentleman by the name of Andrew Wright, he was doing a documentary on the Ultimate Warrior, and they were talking about me, and Warrior was going to be having this return to wrestling after like 10 years, and he was going to wrestle Orlando Jordan.
Yeah, it was in Spain. I remember that. It was like a 20-minute match as well.
Yeah, I wrestled for that company in Spain as well, but I don't think I was on that show. Anyway, so he wanted, Andrew said Warrior really respects you. He wants to know if he comes to, would you get in the ring and train with him? And either they volunteered or I said he'd have to come here, to LA. I'm not gonna, where I was living at the time. He said, yeah, if he flies in, I was like, sure. I had a couple of demands. One of them was I wanted to record it for RVD TV. Man, we rode to Jesse Hernandez's wrestling school out in San Bernardino from the airport. And I was just like, man, this guy's just being cool as can be. He's being really respectful, and he had a reputation for going crazy around that time at some of the things. And so I was like, man, and I'd already told my guy in the back seat, if he freaks out when I light a joint up, make sure you get this on film because I'm not going to put it out, and I lit the joint up because I'm driving, and looking over at him, I'm just kind of letting the moment build. And he's like, how often do you smoke? Well, I said, every day. He said, he goes, really? You smoke like before you work out every time? I said, absolutely. And then he was just asking questions like he was curious, like, wow, you're able to do that? And what do you get out of it? And this and that. So I started educating him a little bit. And man, we bonded so well. As far as the workout went, we did very little. I mean, I stretched. I put everybody through my full hour stretch, so they were done by then anyway. Like you mentioned earlier, it's double workout. But he really just wanted to kind of run the ropes a little bit, and I was trying to help him where I could. But it wasn't like, at the time, it seems like it got out that RVD was training the Ultimate Warrior for his big return, and it really was just a couple hours in the ring. He was super cool. I took him back to the airport, and then I got to know him a little bit at the end there when he was in WWE. I talked to him at the WrestleMania before he passed away. I was in his press box, got to shake his hand and just talk to him for a little bit. After he passed away, his wife, maybe it was at the Hall of Fame, one of them, she was telling me, I don't know if you know this, but Warrior always followed your career. He was such a big fan of yours. I'm like, what? I had no idea. And she said, I don't know if you remember this, but you were on a independent show in Las Vegas, like in '95. Of course I remember. I was like, of course I remember. Ultimate Warriors. I was at the Aladdin. And she says, yes, he saw you. He was watching you. And I'm getting goosebumps now telling it. And I guess I don't know why, but that's just what the energy does. But anyway, I was extremely flattered because I wrestled for this company out here. He was on the show. He was rumored to have taken all the money and left. Which is why other people didn't get paid that night. And I told his wife, and she laughed that somebody would say that. But I had no idea that he remembered me still from that show because I don't even think I talked to him, and I wasn't. He was the main event, I'm sure, but. Anyway, he always followed. I said, well, now that makes sense why he wanted to reach out and wanted me to be in the ring with him and stuff. So that was a full circle experience for me.
Yeah, do you know, I think the promotion's called like NWF or something, and they were bringing like NWC, I'm sorry. And then it was like Sabu was going, Jim Neidhart was there, Hulky, I think.
Yeah, Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah.
They used a bunch of ex-WWE wrestlers. And there was a guy out here, a local guy named Buffalo Bill. And he used to run the shows before TC Martin took over. And Buffalo Bill, he had a very famous feud here with the local mobsters from Chicago. Rick Rizzolo, who ran the strip club, Crazy Horse 2. And Buffalo Bill's office was on the corner of that building, and the mobsters wanted to get rid of him and tried everything. And he was out there filming everything they were doing, beating people up in the parking lot, prostitution, drugs, whatever, turning it into the FBI. They had a really famous head-to-head, and then Buffalo Bill ended up dead. If you look at the October 2023 season of Unsolved Mysteries, there's an episode that I highly recommend called Death in a Hotel. And it's the story about what I'm telling you right here. So anyone listening, boom, there's the facts. As you can tell, weed totally has erased my memory.
Oh, hopefully you won't forget this one then, because I remember just in the back of my head there was a video of you and you doing an impression of the Ultimate Warrior, and I think in the background there was like a MMA cage or something, and you go and
that was during this training. That was this day that I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what I was gonna do, so it was just ad lib. He's like, well. What are you going to say? I go, I'm just going to be you. Because I didn't really know what I was going to say. I go, just stand over there and then just, I'm going to be going, just come in and cut me off. Like, that's all I told him. So he kind of had to like sneak in, like, Rob, yeah, what? And I don't remember what I did. I was just like, there's just a lot of fun. It's just commitment. It's super intense.
Hey, all I remember at the beginning was, you've always got to start it with that if you're going to do a warrior thing. Right. In fact, Mr. Wright has written in this, and this is something I'd written
Andrew
already.
Wright? We're just talking about Andrew Wright.
Well, maybe it's him. Who knows? Mr. Wright is all he identifies himself with, and I love it when people bring up when somebody, before they were famous kind of thing, has done enhancement work for the WWF, and it's just one of those continuing sources of fascination to me. So, Mr. Wright writes in, why was your segment when you wrestled as enhancement talent as Matt Byrne cut from your WWE Icons documentary back in 2021? I remember in the trailer they showed a picture of you at a Wrestling Challenge taping, and I love when I have a guest. Oh, sorry, that's my notes. Forget that. So how come that wasn't in the documentary for starters? And we'll move on from there.
I don't think I let anybody know that yet. I think when we made that documentary, that was something that I still kept to myself, which, by the way, you wouldn't believe how much stuff people still don't know. And I always say, I'll put it in the book, but I've also been saying that I'm working on a book for 20 years. So don't start asking me how that's going, because I don't think I told them. I was protective of a lot of things. I went to WWE with my hands up, total defense, expecting they're going to change my name to something, erase my past, create some character. And I had hesitations of going there because of that. I didn't even know I was going to help revive the ECW. So it was still during that breaking in period time when they did the One of a Kind DVD. There was that, which I wouldn't have brought up. And there was also the fact that I kissed Ted DiBiase's foot. I was afraid to bring that up because I thought that maybe they would create this agenda where it's driven me crazy ever since that night. And I became a professional wrestler just to get in the ring with Ted DiBiase. I could just see that happening. And I really wasn't cool with that, so I didn't tell anybody. And when they interviewed my dad for that, I believe this is on that One of a Kind DVD, but there was a show called Before They Were Superstars, and they interviewed my dad, and he told them. And at first I was like, dude, you told them about that? Like, at least inside, that's how I was feeling. So I was like, man, I wonder if they're going to try and use that against me. And then, now it's like I just love transparency. So, I said there's a lot that I haven't. There's still a lot that people don't know, but it's not stuff that's hidden. It's just stuff that never comes out in interviews. As a matter of fact, every week when I'm doing my podcast, all the stories, just because they ask me different questions, I always feel like they're inspiring me to tell things that I haven't thought about in decades, and different stories instead of the rehashed same old. So,
what's that podcast called again, Rob? I forget.
One of a Kind.
Where can people find it?
Where is it? You know what? That's a good question.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you what, I'll help out. It's on YouTube. Just search Rob Van Dam, Current AF.
Real RVD is all my what do you call it? All my social media. Yeah. Thank you. Is all the Real RVD. So that's my YouTube as well. Yeah, but it's also on, I guess, I don't know, where other places you find podcasts, at Premier Network, and what's that other one?
iTunes. Spotify, all of those.
Oh yeah,
One of a Kind, the podcast. Don't forget it. We're going to because anyway. So going back to the Matt Byrne thing, and when you ended up in doing a single appearance for the WWF, and I think like '92. How did you get that gig?
2, actually.
Oh, you did 2. I thought you only did 1. Were you Matt Byrne on both of them?
Right. Yes. Right. So here's what happened. I'm in Tampa in '91. And I'm part of the clique down there. Pat Tanaka was the hookup with WWE, and he was training guys. He may or may not have had the book. No, he didn't have the book yet, unless it was '92, which that would make sense. Anyway, he also booked for a while. He was in the office at the Tampa Sportatorium, but WWF was coming through Tampa, and he was hooking up some of the local guys with jobs. And during those days, for anybody that doesn't know, the matches were enhancement matches. It was a superstar versus a nobody, which would be somebody on their way up, make their name, whatever. And for the nobody, not only is it exposure and learning experience, but also $150 when the Sportatorium was paying me $35 a week to be Rob Van Dam. So they went through WWF, and I don't think I was promised anything, but somehow, like, I was on his list of people Pat was going to hook up. I didn't get hooked up. So to make up for it, he said if we drove to Mississippi, that he could get us on those tapings. And so myself, I rode with Sandy Beach. There's been more than one Sandy Beach, but that's another conversation. We went up there, and it was like there was 2 shows back to back, Monday, Tuesday, or whatever it was. And it was either Biloxi, Mississippi, and something in Louisiana, or something like that, something that was very close. And I didn't want to work. I just wanted to get paid to show up, because that's what happened on the first day. They said, "Oh, sorry, kid, we don't have anything for you. We should have something for you. Are you coming tomorrow?" "Yeah, we should have something for you tomorrow." And I was like, sweet, I just made $150 to show up. And I really wasn't into getting beat on TV, even at that stage. I mean, I was young and green, but I had a little momentum as Rob Van Dam. You know, I was getting a push. I was in the magazines a little bit. And so I changed my name to Matt Byrne. For people that don't get the joke, it's not about burning unless you want it to be, but it's actually something that all wrestlers have, is Matt Burns. And the next day I had to work twice. So I wrestled against the Mountie, and my memories of that match are that I tried to change my look as much as possible. So I was slicking my hair back with gel because it was too short to tie it back. But for my Van Dam look, you know, I tried to keep it dry and down to be Matt Burns. And I wore blue trunks and these white boxing boots and blue volleyball knee pads. And I wore a shirt. I thought that's a pretty good change from it. Had the match. Walking back through Gorilla, I walked through, and then I could hear some yelling going on behind me that I just passed. And Gorilla Monsoon was yelling like, "What? No, he didn't, did he?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh." Gorilla Monsoon comes out and says, "You didn't wear that shirt during the match, did you?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "What? Why would you do that?" And he was like mad. And he's like, we might have to redo that match now. We might not be able to use it because you decided to wear a shirt during the match. Why wouldn't you want to show your body, show your skin? Ridiculous. I don't know if he actually said ridiculous. I'm paraphrasing. He was upset. I was like, oh, shit. And then later on, I was in a match, in a handicap match with Sid. And it was me and Scott Casey. And so now, not only am I doing a job on TV, but I'm in a handicap match. So, you know, I could hear the Sheik being angry at me because he's trying to teach me to be a star, not just to wrestle. But I don't know, but my inner voices inside were struggling. But anyway, had the match, and I got to tell you my memories of that. I knew Bruno. Bruno was managing him, and I knew Bruno from the Memphis days. So it was,
Harvey Whippleman at the time.
Yeah. So that was my in, you know, so I was cool with him. So he introduced me to Sid before the match and everything. And I'm thinking maybe that's why Sid was so cool. I don't know. But after the match, Sid came up to me and he said, "Hey, brother," he said, "I really appreciate what you did in there, you know, with you know, doing the job for me like you guys did. And I know it's not cool necessarily getting beat like that, but what you did, you know," he said, "helped me out, and you brought me from here up to here." And he said, "That's where I want to be because I want to wrestle Hulk Hogan." And he said, I really appreciate what you did." And he gave me $20. He said, "I know this ain't much, but hopefully it'll help get you down the road a little bit." I don't think and Scott Casey also told me that he did the same to him. And I can't remember another wrestler tipping me like that ever in my career. Like, I mean, that was just amazing, you know, and so super cool.
Who was very briefly with this as well? Who was the guy who was almost like the concierge at the back? Who would sort of like shuffle you around, show you the locker rooms, tell you what you're doing, tell you who you're wrestling that night, that kind of thing.
It seems like Tony Gurria was around back then. Tim White. I don't know if anyone was shuffling me around. It seems like I was more or less following Sandy, and he was probably looking for Pat. I remember a bunch of guys playing cards on a table, just killing time all day and not really caring, when I'm walking around like, does somebody want to tell me where to go or anything? And everyone's just kind of ignoring me. I remember more of that. So I don't know specifically.
We're going to move on now. Mitch Wotton has written in, and this is something I have no idea of. Hi, James. Rob is one of my favourites. My question is there any truth to Rob almost becoming Glacier in WCW?
Well, I thought so. But according to Eric Bischoff, it wasn't going to happen. So it depends on which universe you live in. Because it was through DDP, all of it. So it's quite possible that there was some miscommunication there, I guess. But during this time, let's see, I met Eric Bischoff at a WCW event when I was in ECW. He did offer me a job with a little detail on the structure of the payment, duration of the contract, what he thought about starting me out at and building to. Anyway, right away, the internet was going crazy. RVD's leaving. I think maybe Raven already left. Maybe Sandman had. I'm not sure, but some guys were definitely thinking of hopping over at that time, and I really didn't want to. I had to consider it, but then Paul didn't book me on the pay-per-view, and it's our first pay-per-view in ECW, and he doesn't even have me on there. And I've been there a little over a year. So I'm not saying I was the ECW vet, but I did feel very important there. And Sabu, who at that time I believed anything he said, he was always telling me that he and I were the most over guys there and that we were leagues above everybody else. So I believed in that anyway at that time because he told me that. And I was like, I'm going to have Rob Van. So anyway, Rob's going to leave. Maybe I am. I got an offer. I'm offended. And me and Paul had a big meeting. What can I do to make you stay and not go to WCW? Oh, I mean, it's business, We had a business talk. Now I'm going to stay in ECW, but he's going to put me on WWE now, television. And then, that was like 97. But during all this time, while this is going on, and before I make the agreement with Paul that I'm going to stay, DDP is calling me like once a week. And, he's like, hey, Bischoff wants you to come and sign up here. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And he's like, yeah, he's got this idea. He's going to do like the Mortal Kombat gimmick. Mm-hmm. And he said, you'd be perfect for it. Now that might've just been in DDP's mind, but he kept calling me every week. And he's saying, dude, what are you doing? Did you call Eric? Why not? He's waiting for you to call him. I'd be like, all right. I was busy, and I really wasn't into it. And then he kept saying, why don't you call him? He's got this whole there's gonna be a bunch of them, and there's gonna be, they got this thing planned out, snow's gonna come down, well, it's gonna be all, you're perfect for it, but I would have to have a mask on and stuff. It'd be a different character than myself, and obviously that was a turnoff for me. And I was like, all right. He goes, you have his number? Do you need his number again? I said, no, I got it. And then finally he's like, why you didn't call? Why do you even want to do this? And I was like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, well, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, I guess I was considering it. I don't know. And at that point, he was like, oh, well, if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. You should have told me. And that's where my perspective is. And so for me, DDP was telling me, that I need to be this Mortal Kombat gimmick and that Eric was waiting for me to agree to it. But Eric has said that he never had me in mind for that. So, maybe I wasn't that close to becoming it, or maybe if I would have agreed, Dallas would have said to Eric, let's use RVD, and maybe I would have. So maybe I was close to it. I don't know.
Hey, it takes a lot of balls to basically turn down a guaranteed contract when you're ECW, and it's definitely going to be a pay rise, but it doesn't fit the creative narrative that you want to choose for yourself going forward. So it's definitely long-term thinking there, if that is the case, of course.
Yeah, and also it's short term as far as like where I would be happy and expressing myself artistically and thinking about the company long term, because I know that I believe that my value is going to be the way that I'm controlling it, which also prospectively isn't even true, because I feel like I'm someone that's definitely, being the nonconformist that I am, my biggest followers are going to be more niche than mainstream, because mainstream is more conformist. So, but that's my values though, and that's what was important to me.
Now, we're going to do a little game. Name association. I'm going to throw some sentences at you, some descriptions, and I want you to throw me just the first name that comes into your head. And for certain ones, I might ask you to elaborate a little bit as well. And I've got tons here. And the first one is the one that I always start with. It might as well be the Brad Armstrong memorial question. Funniest person in the locker room. Any locker room.
I'm going to say Dennis Knight.
Why Dennis? I've heard he does
He's
a good impression.
so funny, man. I can't. When I see him like at the Hall of Fames, he's just like one after another, joke after joke after joke, making me laugh. Dean Malenko was like that as well, but Dean's jokes, I appreciated the dry, corny sense of humor, but with Tex, it's like he's legitimately like cracking me up and nonstop, and he's always been like that. I'm surprised if you haven't heard that from anybody.
I'm trying to think, maybe once. It's generally Brad Armstrong who seems to come up on that one. Next one, I don't know how big of a drinker you were.
Can I say something on Brad Armstrong?
Please.
When I was like really young and green in WCW, so I'm 22 years old, just turned 22, and I'm tagging with Brad Armstrong. And synchronistically, I'm wrestling against Dennis and Dennis's partner, Mark Canterbury at that time. So the whatever they were, the Texas
Shanghai Pierce and Tex something.
And Tex Slazenger, they're probably back that time. And anyway, I was like so green. Dennis went up to the corner. There's a house show, and he said the name of the town, whatever it was. You know what I mean? Danby, boo! I didn't know how to follow as the baby face. So I'm just standing there, and he comes over and he goes, hey, go up in the corner and say their name. And not only was I not sure what the name of the town was, I didn't exactly get what he was saying, and I took it more as just a suggestion, like, hey, you should do this. But I didn't realize, I didn't get the spot or whatever, and then I didn't do it. And that's one of the things I remember about it. But another thing was that Brad was so funny, because it was something where like one of the heels were like, hey, ref, he pulled my hair, or something like that. And I'm in the middle of the ring and talking to Brad, and he just said, he speaketh the non-truth. And it was just something, that, so it made me laugh, because it told me what kind of state of mind he was in, and stuff. And that was for me, not everyone to hear, but he speaketh the non-truth to the ref or something. Yeah, it made me feel more comfortable and realize I didn't have to be so nervous and green.
I like that one. Next one, I don't know how much of a drink you were back in the day, but the last man standing at the bar.
Sandman.
That might as well be the Sandman memorial question. Smelliest wrestler.
I guess I'm gonna have to go with Balls.
We got the name, Balls and Vader. Most dangerous situation you ever found yourself in a wrestling sense. So fans trying to rush the ring or attacking you in the back or whatever, something like that.
I'm trying to think of which one to go to, because a few popped into my head. Here's a let's see. I was with the Yakuza with Abby, with that guy with his fingers cut off. I think I'm gonna go with this. Me and Sabu are in Mexico. It's not in the ring. I guess that's probably okay. It's the wrestling world, and we're at this strip club, and we're thinking Mexico is going to be like so cheap, because everything's cheap there. And we got a couple girls at the table, and we're buying them drinks, and they're dancing on us while we're talking to each other, whatever. They come over, and I can't remember. They want like $7,000 or something, and we're like, what? Fuck that, man. Where are we at? We're in fucking what? We didn't even do anything. Anyway, pretty soon it escalates to a point to where me and Sabu were surrounded by probably like, I think it was probably about 7 of these big dudes in suits, and they were standing there not going to let us leave. And I'm trying to talk, to try to solve the situation. And Sabu's escalating it like a motherfucker. He's next to me, and he starts like bouncing up and down and going. It starts like he's getting ready to fight, and he's really serious. He's like, if you take those 3, I got these 4 right here. And he started kind of like moving on him. And I'm like, understood, Sabu, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. I think we can work this out. And I don't know if that was the most dangerous, but that story popped into my mind. And what we ended up doing was one of those guys went with us back to the hotel where we had a credit card, a checkbook. And Sabu wrote a check and then just canceled it right afterwards.
Was it one of those things? Was it one of those things where there was like a dude stood out of a like outside like a really classy looking joint, and then he says, "Follow me." Then he takes you down 2 back alleys, like into the roughest, like dangerous bit.
Yeah.
Next one. Stiffest or most reckless
By the
wrestler?
way, synchronistically, I was just talking about Crazy Horse 2. That's some of the shit they got in trouble for. The girls would bring up these big bills when the customers wouldn't pay for it. The bouncers / mobsters would take the guys in the parking lot, beat the shit out of them. They paralyzed one guy and got in like real big trouble for it. And, like I said, Unsolved Mysteries, Death in a Hotel, October 2023. I highly recommend it. It's a fascinating story. And when it comes to these guys in the bar, I mean, it's like Spalatro's brothers. It's some characters like Joe Belasky. That's literally, he's in the Casino movie, his character in the Hole in the Wall.
I just watched that last week for the first time. Casino. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Do you remember the gang? Like they would rob. They got busted at Bertha's at the end, and so Frank, I can't remember his first name now. Whatever I just said, Blasco was a cop, and he got in trouble for giving information to Tony Spalatro's gang, and they fired him. Then he just went over and became one of the mobsters, and then he was anyway. Our friend, love him, the Godfather. He had Joey B, as he calls him, Joey Blasco, was his best man in his wedding. He was a bartender at that place. And Godfather was one of those bouncers too. So he's somebody whose ear I want to have for a while. Like every time I'm trying to say, dude, tell me some more stories. And he's like, oh man, someday I got to sit down with you. I'm like, no, now we're sitting down. But usually I feel like he blows a lot of that time period off. But yeah, he was one of those guys that worked with him. But anyway, yeah, we were just talking about me and Sabu, and I thought it was synchronistic, and I follow synchronicity. I'm sure I've been in more dangerous situations, but that comes to mind.
Hey, I'll tell you what, though, if Godfather asked me for $7,000, you couldn't stop me from writing that check as quickly as possible. I'm gonna move on. Most stiffest or most reckless wrestler you ever wrestled?
Yeah, these are all thought questions, thought provoking. I used to really not want to wrestle Vader because he was blooding the noses up on jobbers like every week in WCW for a while, but I never did.
Were you there during like the Joe Thurman thing where it was all accidental, but I think he paralyzed a kid after a powerbomb or something? I don't know what era that was, but yeah.
I was in WCW at that time, and I remember thinking, man, I hope they don't put me together. But it was much like I always hoped I wouldn't wrestle Rikishi, and they want me to take the stink face, and that never happened either. I loved how stiff Bob Holly was. I looked forward to wrestling him because I had the reunited ECW spirit in my heart, and I knew what he was going to bring out of me. And at that point, I wanted that, and I knew that if he escalated, I would have the physicality that I would as well. And I knew that was going to happen, and it was going to be a beautiful chemistry in a competitive manner. So Bob Holly comes to mind. You know, everyone watches him and says, ooh, he looks a little snug with purpose in there. And he is.
This is a new question I've thrown in recently. The most high-strung, either edgy or nervous, one of those types of cats.
I'm going to go, Eddie kind of pushed him out of the way there, man. Eddie was pretty high-strung a lot of times, you know, which me just being myself, like if I'm joking around the dressing room or whatever, you know, and I'm not getting the response, you know, in an obligatory, courteous, fake laugh kind of way, but instead a stone cold, straight, intense look, you know. Also Chris Benoit, which is why they got along so well together. Chris was so intense. I remember this was way back in WCW when I was really green. He wrestled William Regal, and afterwards I was at the curtain when he came through. I just, you know, hey, Chris, man, I really liked your match. He stopped and he looked at me and goes, what did you like about it? And all of a sudden, I didn't know what to say. Like, he put me on the spot. I'm like, I liked athleticism. And I'm thinking, what did I say to offend this guy? You know, but maybe he hated the match. Maybe he was mad and then didn't want to hear that. I don't know. But also, who I was going to say, and I'll go with the living. I'm going to go with Mr. Ass. Billy Gunn, yeah, because the last 3 or 4 times that I've seen him, when I just say hi to him, whether it was at the AEW dressing room or I've seen him at some conventions, he's got the most pissed off look on his face out of any of the wrestlers ever. And each time that I've said hi or bye to him, I always say, dude, it can't be that bad. You know, sorry, bro, I don't know what you're going through, but tell your face it can't be that bad. Good seeing you, Billy. And it gets a laugh. He laughs, you know, and then goes right back to that angry face. Like he looks like he's like, I don't know, looks like somebody just did him wrong. Dude, he looks like he wants to kick somebody's ass. I mean,
he probably still could. I mean, you were talking about age before. He's 60. Has he ever looked better?
Isn't that crazy? It's more crazy now that people, are not understanding that. Somebody said on social media, like, it's hard to imagine a 50-year-old beating up a 30-year-old, Rob. And I responded, like, are you being serious right now? I said, who wins, Billy Gunn or one of his kids? And you're all back. Oh, you're right. I don't think that anymore.
Next one, I'm gonna go for best and worst road agents. WWE, let's say.
Best and worst. Man, I don't like to say bad things.
Just say the best ones then, if you don't want to throw anyone under the bus.
Okay. Well, I mean, Tim White was an agent. He didn't deal with the talent during my days, but he did, because he would grab the talent for the Make-A-Wish and the contest winners and stuff. And he was probably my favorite, and I liked Arn, but a lot of what I liked about him was him leaving it up to me, when I had earned that. And he was like, I can't tell you anything that you don't already know. Just come back to me and let me know what you got in mind. And sometimes, for me, that it's the best agent because he's not sidestepping his job. He's being realistic with what's in front of him. And he's probably got other matches that do need certain attention and stuff like that, So, I mean, Paul is going to be my favorite because he's the only, I don't know if you call him an agent. I guess it's sure, producer, what they call the agents there at that office. But either way, not only is he a genius and great at bringing out the strengths and hiding the weaknesses and of talent, but also he's got a great mind for just entertainment. And he's the only agent I've ever worked with that I felt truly understood me and had my best interest in mind. So if a biased answer is okay, I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, of course it is. You don't have to give the number if you don't want to, but the biggest WrestleMania
420.
payoff, 420,000. Best payoff in wrestling ever. I presume it's a WrestleMania.
You would be wrong about that.
Really?
And I'll say this, it was 5 digits, not 6 for RVD.
What event?
One night stand.
One night stand. Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple more, then we'll get to the best questions I can before our time is up. Loudest spot caller?
It's a funny question. I don't know.
I can give you a name that comes up often, if you like.
I guess that's better than a pass. What do you got?
Cena. That comes up quite a lot.
I don't have anyone that comes up, but I will fill in the blank with something. A lot of times I'll be wrestling people, especially when they're less experienced, which is everybody. And a lot of times I'll get the request, "Hey, talk to me out there." And of course I'm, "Oh yeah, no problem." A lot of times I don't at all. But I got to feel it out. Like if they feel lost, then I'm going to have to, but otherwise I'm so into the commitment where I'm at that, I'm expecting them to know until they tell me differently. And so even if they're expecting me to talk out there, a lot of times I'm too into it to even do that. And then afterwards, sometimes I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I guess they thought I was going to lead them a little," but if it's going well, then I'm not one to have my mouth open unless I'm trying to make the referee laugh or something.
I'm going to give you 3 more. You can't say yourself for this. Most legitimate tough badass.
Brock.
The Rock?
How are you going to argue with that? How are you going to argue with Brock? I would put anybody up against Brock and Brock Lesnar and put my money on him. Like he was the UFC heavyweight champ and the WWE heavyweight champ at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's fought his whole life, and he's actually, from my experience, way stronger than he even looks. He's like the Incredible Hulk. I remember when he was curling the SmackDown metal light holding arch thing one time, and I thought that was so cool because it reminds me of in a comic book, one time the Incredible Hulk picked up an entire swimming pool by the corner by holding the corner of it. And it's like I could picture Brock doing something like that. The first time I wrestled him, that King of the Ring tournament, Paul was with us. He made the introduction. I knew that Paul liked him a lot and stuff, but they were trying to explain the F5, and I asked. I was like, "So I haven't seen it. Like, what is it?" And Brock was going to try to explain the F5, and he's like, this is how he explained it. And I'm paraphrasing, but it was something almost exactly like this. He goes, I'll have you I'll take your arm and I'll don't worry about it. I got you. I was like, all right. And then he got me.
How many times did you wrestle Brock in your career? Was it just that one time?
One that I remember, but in court recently with somebody trying to grab some money, their lawyer asked me if it was true that I wrestled him twice. He was trying to make the jury think that pro wrestling and UFC were the same. Like, you fought and beat Brock Lesnar twice, didn't you? And they're we smoked the case. The other guys, it was a money grab, like I said, someone looking for some trouble and then trying to sue me. But they didn't do any research or anything. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like, what? You didn't? No, I know I wrestled them once. You didn't wrestle them twice? I go, did I? Do you know that I did? Because I don't know. I remember one time and I'm pretty sure I didn't beat him. And then, I'm like, oh, are you trying to get the jury to mess in their minds that you think I beat him, so you're trying to. Anyway, he sucked. The jury didn't believe him. But there's something that I haven't talked about in too many interviews. But that's what happens when you go out sometimes and you're a target. And that's what happened to me. Yeah. Absolutely. Anyway, Brock's super tough. And by the way, Ryback also impressed me one time because I did a back cross body off the corner and I came so short. He caught me like down by his shins, but I didn't touch the mat. I was like just floating like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, maybe. But I was like, whoa. And then he just like picked me like right back up. And I was, it's like, all right, I was 240 pounds. So that takes some strength.
Speaking of Ryback, obviously there's a singlet.
Did I bring him up?
Yeah. Did Ryback ever, I don't know, get permission to sort of basically have the exact same kind of outfits as you? He actually did.
Yes. As a matter of fact, Joe Holland is the gentleman who's done all my outfits since day one. And at the time, maybe I was like semi-retired. I wasn't thinking, I guess I didn't really, I don't know if this was I don't know. Anyway, we didn't think I'd be going back there, I guess, or that was a small factor anyway, was the fact that I wasn't on TV representing his artwork. And he was saying he's got this guy, Steve, that's really a good guy. He wants to help him out and he wants to do his outfits if it's okay with me. And it won't be like mine, but of course they seem like it. But he would say mine are different. Mine are dragons and yin yangs, and his are going to be more, I don't know, metal or whatever his are. But they're both a wide range. But yes, so Joe Holland, and I believe he might have put us on conference one time, and I think I talked to Ryback as well before I had met him during this time, to give him my blessing. And I'm not one to hold somebody else back. I'm just one to get ahead regardless of where everyone else is.
Rightly so. Two more here. Most memorable backstage fights that didn't involve you.
I'm trying to think of like ones that I actually saw, and that everything that pops in my mind is like things that I heard about, but I guess they're still more memorable than.
I can move on.
Well, okay. Well, let me just spit this out. I mean, I remember seeing Bob Holly hitting Renee with the back of the chair. That was like a one-sided fight, if you want to call it a fight. But Renee wasn't fighting back. And then it's memorable to me that Chavo wanted to take on Big Show one time, and he was letting him know. He was like, "Hey, I'll show you what you do to a big giant." He goes, "You want to see how big you are, myself? You don't talk to people the way you're talking to me right now. Just because I'm smaller than you, I'm going to show you why. You want me to show you why?" And I got a lot of respect for Chavo when I saw that, because Big Show was just like, "No, brother." He was like, I didn't mean to talk to you that way." And go ahead.
Oh, I was actually going to. Didn't Ray also challenge Big Show Giant to a fight one time? That might be WCW.
I can't imagine Ray getting mad or in a fight with anybody. I've certainly never heard that.
Oh, that might be an old wives' tale. And the very last thing that I've got to ask is the strangest sight you ever witnessed at the Philly Travel Lodge.
Wow. Again, I'm thinking about things that I heard about.
Did you often stay there, or did you avoid it?
No, I did. And this was back in those days. Those were my Soma days, until Louis Spicoli passed away. I seriously did not know that it was that dangerous. We all partied on them. Me, Sabu, and Louis, every night we would just eat handfuls of Somas. And we did. I'm thinking about this time I was rooming with Gary Albright, and he's in the room, and I'm with Sabu and whatever. We went to eat, sew it up, and I'm doing what we called the Winnebago crawl, where you have to use your hands on the wall to actually walk because you have no balance and you're falling asleep while you're trying to progress down the hallway. First off, it was round, so it was it sucked to be in that position because sometimes you'd walk by your door several times because it was circular. When I got to, but it was so hard this one particular night that pops up, and I was like, and I was so, you know, drugged up, and I finally made it to the door, and I'm trying to stick my room key in, and as I'm doing it, it opens up, but the chain is on it, and Gary Albright's like, Rob, I got a girl in here. Come back later. And I was like, no. And I was like, oh, I think what I did was just slid down the wall and slept there until, morning or something. Glad I made it past those days. After Louis, eventually people started dropping left and right. But before Louis, I had just heard that Eddie Gilbert had died, and that Somas was one of the factors, and I didn't really know Eddie. And besides that, I was clueless. There's so many times during that time that I was really pushing boundaries. We used to eat mixed soma sandwiches. Me and Gary Albright, I remember doing this one time in Japan. We'd have two somas and we put a halcyon in the middle of it. And we were eating those, and probably washing it down with a beer too. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah, I got a lot of my experience from living it. And that's one that you really don't need to if you could learn from other people's experiences.
I'll follow up with two things. Do you know what Sabu told me his most memorable experience in the Travelodge was?
I'm afraid to say.
He said, I can't tell you some of them, but once I walked into, they gave him the room, and there was still the chalk outline of the guy who died the night before in it.
Oh, right. I know that story.
Yeah, there was that one. Also, speaking of somas, because I wasn't going to ask this, but since you brought it up, why did you get into somas? Was it because of pain, or was it because of the culture in the business at the time?
Totally with the culture. And a lot of the wrestlers would have pills. For me, it was the Japan crew that introduced me to that. Although even before I went to Japan, like when I was in Tampa, we talk about those days, the boys did it. I remember one time, Jimmy Backlund, Gigolo Jimmy Backlund, getting me to swallow something, putting something in my drink, at this little party that we were having for opening up the sportatorium, and we were drinking, and I was like 20 years old, like super young and stupid and a prima donna. But they used to have the halcyons or somas for that, mostly to help them sleep on the airplane. At least that was the logic behind it anyway, because it's such a long flight and you would fall asleep and wake up and fall asleep. And anyway, so they would all carry it on them and stuff. And it was just hanging around certain guys that I started eating somas. Mike Lazansky was a guy that, like, one time he and his girlfriend and their dog all showed up at my 1-bedroom apartment where me and my evil ex lived. And I think I don't know if we had a dog or not at the time. One time they showed up and they didn't leave for several weeks because he brought a jar of 500 somas. And he just kept me sewing up the whole time. Somehow I make it to the airport and back to go do my matches for the weekend. And then I would come back, and there's so many photos of me just spread eagle laying on the carpet while they're, stacking things on our faces or whatever. And it's amazing. But I always had friends that took more than me. And that was always kind of my safety guard, and Louis would take 100 in one night. And then I was, most I took was like 38. So I thought I'm pretty safe. But yeah, 100. And when he died, it was from him not taking as many and trying to make up for it by mixing. I don't need 100 somas. I can just do 50 somas if I also take like 4 yellow Valium and 1 Halcyon. And if I drink 1 bottle of wine, that's what did. A man was trying to change his routine up like that, ultimately.
Yeah.
The guys in Japan, it'd be something that we would, before I knew it, I was carrying them on myself, not taking handouts from anybody else, and then it was just routine until it wasn't.
Yeah. It's a terrifying, to get your sort of thought process thinking that's the logical way to go is, I don't need 100, I need 50. And yeah, It's a crazy way of sort of altering your mindset, I guess, in that sense. Rob, in the minutes, because I know you've got another interview. I like to think a less important interview than this. But I've with whatever time we've got left, I don't know, 10, 50, 10 minutes, let's say, I'm going to try and ask, you don't have to rush, maybe 2 or 3, and then we'll plug One of a Kind, the podcast, for all it's worth even more. And
I'll come back if you want to do a part 2, dude. I always talk long, and we get through only like 4 questions instead of the planned 30.
Dude,
I got a lot to say, man.
Hey, dude, I've got to over-prepare. If you're not over-prepared, you're under-prepared, so I always like to do it that way. This fella, Big Jeff, is in the house. He says, do you know who would have went over in your planned match with Mike Awesome?
No. I don't know. I mean, anything would be hypothetical. If you're asking me to book it right now, I think I would have been holding 2 belts after that match. That would have been awesome. And literally, there's no pun intended, but also even having rematches, maybe setting up a 3 out of 5 or something. But first, we'd have to set the standards in that first matchup that never happened. He was great, but I think, and this is in my opinion, being biased, him having the heavyweight belt, I think, made him stronger, and I think me having the TV championship belt made the TV belt stronger. Mm-hmm. So I think that would have been the difference.
I'm presuming this is the time when Mike jumped ship to WCW, so that's why the match never happened. Because we don't really talk about Mike Awesome very much on the show, and I really enjoyed him. He was one of my sort of like, like the undercover favourites. Like everyone's got the favourites like The Rock or whoever. But like Mike Awesome was always one of my favourites. Did you ever wrestle him, ever?
No, I never did. I guess we were both in the Alliance, so we had done some segments together. And he was my road wife for a while. We in 2001, I guess, in maybe 2002, I don't know, but we traveled together, and he was, definitely one of my better friends, and one of my several friends to decide to hang themselves, which I'm going to have to look at the list of them and see if there's a pattern, because I grew up in a house where someone hung themselves. So I have that in the back of my mind, how that foreshadowed Ashley Massaro, the Lion Hart in England. Obviously Chris Benoit, but there's a huge list, and it's weird studying the patterns of life. Never saw it coming. It hurt a lot to know that he would have opted to do that to himself.
Yeah,
he loved his kids so much. He loved his kids, not his wife so much. Loved his kids. I could not imagine that he would do that to them. He would just tell me he can't wait to get home and smell them. He was like a dog in that way, which I don't know anybody else that has explained themselves like him, but he used his nose a lot like a dog, and he used to love just smelling his kids, and he would talk about that. And then, like I said, I get it where his wife and him probably got in a really bad fight because it didn't seem like they had the best loving relationship anyway. And I would imagine she probably threatened to take away his kids. In my mind, that had to have been what happened.
Yeah. Now, I'll probably end on two questions, unless it's a very short answer. I Love Hate 8 says, I saw a match between you and Triple H where early on Triple H said a few words and pushed you, and then you did your known pimp hand slap. Then you said a couple of words and it went back to a usual match. Was there any heat between you and Hunter throughout your time there? No, I have no idea of what this answer is going to be. No idea.
Well, what's the right way to answer that? Did I ever feel any heat? There was times. Yeah. There was times when I felt both like defensive, that he looked down early on, maybe before I talked to him about it, maybe talked down. And I think it's common knowledge that not only was The Office, but that it's been said a lot of times publicly that he was at least one of the people responsible for turning the idea of using RVD in a more productive way down. I think everybody knows, like could have been RVD at WrestleMania, and he thought, no, Rob's not a big enough star or whatever. Well, it's easy to take that personally, like I would, like my fans would, and then we'd have that like state of mind, screw him, he doesn't know him, but if you look at it from the bigger picture and you look at him doing his job, and certainly he has a right to his opinion, I don't even now being the ninja master that I am, if someone tells me they don't like me, I don't even necessarily develop bad feelings for them. There's people that I like where if they like me or not isn't even a factor. And that's just me and my RVDology, my special one of a kind insight. And I'm always growing spiritually, and having all of that to frame my perspective, looking at the bigger picture. He was doing his job with the opinion that he felt, and how are you going to fault him for that? But it seemed like at the time it was more personal, and he's just trying to get himself ahead and this and that. But he obviously really did think that himself was the best foot to put forward. And I think that he would have a good argument if someone was to debate that anyway. So, I can't tell you how someone else feels about me, and overall there's certainly no heat now on my part. You don't see me at WWE right now, and my guess is, hey, stop. I
think the dog's a Triple H fan.
I might be. My guess is the reason that they don't call me a whole lot probably has something to do with relationships that I built or didn't build when I was there. Or maybe it's just because I don't act like I want it enough, which is certainly the takeaway I got from the one of a kind documentary that they did on Peacock. Definitely that I didn't act like I wanted enough. And yeah, if you're looking for hungry and desperate, go ring someone else's bell.
Have we got time for just one more question, or do you have to skip?
Yeah, no, we do. We do, yeah. I'm just looking at the camera to see if someone's standing outside waiting on me. But I'm not going to answer it anyway. I don't answer my.
Well, I'll tell you what. While you're checking the ring, I'll finish on this one. Salvatore M says, "I'm not going to beat around the bush. How utterly goofy or aloof was Steven Seagal on the set of Sniper Special Ops?"
Well, full exposure here. Disclosure. I didn't mean to expose myself. Sorry. Whoa. Yeah, he wasn't on the set when I was on there, and he was on a closed set. There was only like 2 people that actually worked with him on a closed set, and that was done for a few different reasons, both by his team and by the production team and crew, and the liabilities of him working with other people.
I've got a backup question, so I'll end on this one instead. When you got to TNA in 2010, why did you always call Hulk Hogan Hulky? I tend to have nicknames a lot of times for people that I'm friends with, but I think that it came across a little heelish, and I like the sound of that, a little bit disrespectful, and that was kind of like what I was going for, come on, Hulky, we can't all be so lucky to do our whole career having one move. I just thought it was a little bit lack thereof of showing the proper respect to Hulk Hogan, the man that carried wrestling on his shoulders during the years that I got infatuated with it, and probably the most recognizable man on the planet, right?
probably so. I mean, whoever you put with him, like, so yeah, just for that reason.
Was he? Is he just fun to be around? Because I mean, he's a large than life character. You're a big fan in the day. When you first meet him, whenever it's like 2002, or maybe even got to know him more in 2010, was he sort of like? Did he meet your expectations essentially?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy being around him. But he's not like such a close buddy that I'm not a mark to be with Hogan. You know what I mean? Like he's like when he's that guy for me, for the story of my life. And he's got some draw. So people have their own reasons, for being mad at him or for thinking not very highly of him. But when we were at Hulk Hogan's hangout 1 year ago, because it was for New Year's of last year, I'm sitting next to Hulk and Katie's next to me, and the fans are a little distance behind the other side of the bar or whatever. And Hulk's talking to me, and the whole time he's talking to me, there's this fan trying to get my attention. Rob, RVD, and I'm ignoring him because I'm listening to Hulk. And then and we're there all night anyway. You know what I mean? And I've been talking to people and stuff. It's not like and it's not like there's thousands of people. But anyway, music's playing, all kinds of shit. People are dancing. Hulk's talking to me, and Katie's like, maybe this fan's trying to get your attention. And I'm like, I know. Who do you think I want to talk to? The camera, Hulk Hogan. So I'm not like buddy where I look at him straight across. I still look very much up to him for everything that he's done. And I mean, the man's pushing 70, and I think he set a pattern for me in my life in certain ways. Mm-hmm. He lives on the beach now, goes down to his hangout and back, and doesn't even want to leave the beach, takes the golf cart sometimes he drives. Like, wow, what a life.
Dude, it's 3 degrees below freezing here, and I'm more jealous than I'd normally be hearing about that life. Listen, I've bent your ear enough, as we say over here. Thank you so much for spending so much time with me. Once again, we're plugging the podcast, and anything else you want, so go ahead right now.
Yeah, basically all my handles on social media are The Real RVD, including YouTube, and we have clips and full shows, and sometimes sneak on videos of my weekends, conventions, and stuff like that. Check out my YouTube page, subscribe, and pretty much keep up with everything that I'm doing or done. I tell you to go to robvandam.com because I'm trying to keep that fresh, but I forget about that I even have that for like 6 months at a time every few weeks, and then I get back to it. But yeah, if you follow me, I will tell you where I'm going to be. We're in January, February. February 10th. I'm in Queens, New York. Let's plug that one.
Okay, go ahead. Who are you wrestling? Do you know?
No, this will be an appearance of signing at this. I think it's called WrestleZone, but I could be wrong. But it's a comic book. It's not a comic book. I guess it's action figures, maybe comics too. It's everybody knows of the place though, because they do signings all the time, and I've been there a couple of times myself. But it's ECW Day. RVD will be there all day, and other ECW guys are coming in, I guess, for an hour at a time or whatever. And I could have the date wrong. It could be February 11th, but it's it's one of those. It's that weekend. So, look it up, watch for it, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I'll find some links for it as well. I know you're going to be at WrestleCon. I might fly over for it as well. So I might just pass to Shane Douglas for 2 days. I've not figured it out yet, but I might go. And I've never seen a WrestleMania live either, so I might do that on my own.
Nice.
Because none of my friends like wrestling. So...
Yeah, it's an awesome time. Have you been to WrestleCon? You've never been to WrestleCon?
No, I think I've only been to one convention once in my life. I'm not a convention person. I don't like autograph hunting or anything like that. But I'll enjoy it. I'll go WrestleCon, I think, and the whole experience. And I think Blue Meanie's got something. Meanie Manor, he's like a bar around the corner from the convention. So nice. I'll have to go there as well.
You just reminded me. They reached out and asked me to leave a message because they're having like a 200th episode on their podcast or something. So congratulations, Meanie. And if it's not too late, I'll try and do that today. Yeah, all kinds of stuff happening though that weekend. And who knows where RVD is going to turn up. It's still booking's still coming in, talk still happening. So I'll be there though. Look forward to seeing you there, James.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's one of a kind, Rob Van Dam's podcast, YouTube, all the usual stuff. I just want to say thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Rob. And we'll catch you again next time I have a guest.